Okay, I'm changing the valve cover gaskets on my 2014 Dodge Avenger. Taking you along for the ride here. So first I'm removing the beauty cover, and the engine was hot, so I had to cool it off with this blower. Did that for like 45 minutes. Now I'm blowing off the all this area with compressed air. I mean, not super high PSI. I'm just blowing it off to get the, dirt, dust, whatever off there. So clean up the area. I'm also wiping it down. I'm doing it more so than shown here. So now the coil pack cables connectors have to be removed. So that's fairly straightforward. This one here, I'm having to use this little pocket knife to release this orange connector because that one is broken like this. So that gray thing is a cantilever and that little orange thing is a interlock. Yeah, so now here I'm pulling back all the interlocks, the orange interlocks. That one needed a little bit of help with the little pocket knife. I'm pulling that one off, removing each one of them, pushing on the cantilever, the gray cantilever, and then just easing the connector back. Okay, they're off. Now I'm using this 11 millimeter 7/16 inch 6-point deep socket to remove these plastic ball studs that the beauty cover sits on. Mine were just hand tied. I didn't even need a socket, but that if you needed a socket, that's the socket you use. Yep. Okay, there's those things. Now on with the 5/16 or 8 millimeter to untorque or loosen or break free the 18 valve cover bolts, which is what I'm doing here, just walking around the perimeter of this thing and untorquing or breaking free these valve cover bolts. Yep. Okay, here's going around back to get these in back. Okay, this is a wire tie that holds that big cable bundle, and I've got to cut that, and the wire tie plastic piece fits on one of the valve cover bolts, and there it is. There's that wire tie. I'll reuse that later. I'm spinning out the valve cover bolts with my Milwaukee 3/8 inch ratchet, very handy tool. Spinning them out. These are on the back side, the back of the engine. This one's on the back corner, driver side. I undid this holder for that vacuum line hose to the brake booster. I don't know if that was absolutely necessary. I tried to get some more working room. Okay, here I'm cutting another wire tie for a wire tie holder that slips on the top of another valve cover bolt. There it is. I just pulled it out with the needle nose pliers. Now I'm going to break this free, and then I'm going to spin it out this corner bolt. All done there. Okay, so Torx 30s hold the coil packs in place. Breaking those free here. Spinning them out. Putting them in this little magnetic tray. All right. So I got access to a couple more bolts that I couldn't get to before there in that center area. There's 4 of them. Spinning them out. Okay, and here's another wire loom holder that also slips over the top of one of those valve cover bolts. There it is up close. It's gray. Untorquing that, spinning it out. Spinning these 2 bolts out here. I'm just counting to make sure there's 18. Just counting and checking to make sure all these valve cover bolts are loose before I try to pull off the valve cover. Okay, that's the PCV valve hose. Here I'm labeling the coil packs. Not necessary, but I like to put things back like I took them apart. So I'm labeling these. Pulling out the coil packs. No biggie. Okay, at this point, and even before I untighten the valve cover bolts, I should have tried to clean out that cavity where the spark plugs go down in with some compressed air. I didn't do it, so whatever. All right, here I'm in a panic trying to get the valve cover off. It won't come off. It won't come off. So, oh no, the end. What do I? Oh, okay. I just used these plastic pry bar things, and I'm able to get between the valve cover and the cylinder head without damaging the plastic valve cover or the aluminum cylinder head. These work great for that. So I'm walking around the perimeter, just separating the valve cover from the cylinder head. I didn't have to use a lot of force here. Okay, so that thing is free. And I'm using this this plier, 5/8 inch hole diameter plier, to use a little bit of persuasion to get this hose off of here, this other hose. All right, now my coil pack wires to the coil packs, I am going to Velcro that out of the way because it's kind of in the way. Now I'm able to remove the valve cover finally. And there it is. It's the cylinder head with the camshafts. At this point, I should have stopped and just taken high resolution photographs of all the cam lobes. I didn't do it. I should have. I didn't. And yeah, no sludge visible there. All right, here's the valve cover underneath. And I'm just cleaning it up, wiping it up a little bit. I'm doing much more than I did here on camera, just wiping off the old oil. Yeah, so now I am removing the valve cover bolts and part of the gasket. Okay, sorry, I'm removing the actual gasket around the perimeter. It's hardened. And here I am, yep, showing that it is just brittle. It's hard. It snaps. The new one's very soft and pliable. So I'm also pulling out this center gasket around the plug hole gasket. Pulling that guy out. Okay, now I'm removing the valve cover bolts. Just pulling them out. I can do it by hand. I didn't need pliers. Getting these center bolts out now. There's 4 of them in the center. Then I used this flush cutter, this 4-inch flush cutter, and the 6.5 inch needle nose to cut the rubber grommet instead of just trying to force those out. I just wanted to do this the easy way. So I cut each of them with the diagonal cutter, and then I removed each of them with the needle nose pliers. So here I'm cutting them. Went very quick. Okay, now I'm removing them with the needle nose plier. So much easier than trying to just force them off by hand without cutting them. Okay, this is a new grommet. That's what they look like. It's got like and this is how they're inserted over the valve cover bolts. So, yep. So now I'm inserting the valve cover bolts into the new grommets, or whichever way you want to think about it, inserting the grommet onto the valve cover bolt. So they go a certain way. Yeah, I was thinking about that there. Yeah, that's the way they go. On they go. Speed this up a little bit. Step on the gas a little bit here. Yeah. Okay. Well, there's 18 of them. Yeah, there's 18. So this takes a little bit of time. I think this is speeded up by a factor of 4 or something. Just about there. 1 or 2 more. Okay. Laying them out. Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right. Here they are in a magnetic tray. Notice some of them have like a double head on them, or a stud sticking out the top. All right. Here I am putting the perimeter gasket in the valve cover on my stove. Probably get in trouble for doing that, but I'm using my stove as a, workplace. And yeah. Okay, pushing the perimeter gasket in place. Now here's the spark plug gasket. It's got these little ridges that hold the gasket in place. I think the perimeter gasket has the same thing. That's what I'm pointing to there. Those little bumps help hold the gasket, secure the gasket in place. Pushing it down. Yeah. Okay, now here's a diagram I made of the valve cover gasket, looking at it, facing the engine, looking down on it. And yeah, so the O one is like a short bolt, and the X one is like a double-ended bolt. And for example, that peg or the ball stud fits on the double bolt along with a few other things. Okay, now I'm pushing the valve cover bolts back with the grommets back in place. They snap into place, or yep. Putting them on one at a time per the diagram that I made there. Okay. They go in quick. Okay, I'm continuing to put these bolts in around the perimeter. They go in quick. No special tools needed. Just push in by hand and they click into place. Pushing the ones in the center section. All right, I put one in the wrong place. I'm pulling this one out. It's supposed to be a double threaded one there, double headed one. There we go. Got the right one in place. I'm putting that correct one in place there in the center area. Just checking to make sure the gaskets are still in place or seated properly. Okay, there's the valve cover, this aluminum valve cover. There's a step there, and I'm pointing to it. I'm rubbing it here with my finger. I can actually feel the little step there. So I know that's going to result in a leak. There was some sealant on there from the factory. I'm going to duplicate that. I'm also going to put some sealant on that. Okay, now I'm going to go to the back side. Yeah, I can feel that with my finger. I can feel that step. So I want to seal that up because I'm sure that'll leak. And like I said, it came with some extra RTV from the factory. So here I got some RTV. I'm just going to put a dab on those key spots there where the valve cover is mated to the engine to prevent any kind of leak, oil leak in the future. There I go. Just a small amount right there in the front of the engine, and then on the back of the engine, just a small amount. I'm going to remove just a little bit of that because I don't want excess. I just want enough to seal it. Messing around with that a little bit. Okay, that's adequate. All right, I'm putting the valve cover back in place. Incidentally, I did inspect the valve cover. I didn't see any cracks. It's an 8mm that I'm using. Tighten it down. I'm just going to hand tighten them all 18 bolts, hand tighten. Yeah, and I didn't mention earlier, but this torquing process probably took me like an hour at least, because why it took so long. It seems ridiculous, maybe an hour and 20 minutes. I didn't want to crack my plastic valve cover. I mean, I looked online, they were like $140 or something. I didn't want to crack that. And the squishiness of the gaskets, every time I tightened them up, I mean, it was just like the squishiness of the gaskets played a factor in that, because every time I would tighten them down, I came back to tighten them. You'll see me torquing them later. It would require retorquing. I think that's just because of the nature of the thing with the rubber gaskets seating and compressing. So I did use this manual, helped me some with some torques, I believe. This Hayes manual. I got some data out of this thing. So the next level of torquing was just with this hand tool. And then another level was this torque wrench. Yeah, so the first level with the hand torquing I didn't show. So I did not film that. So I kind of did it as hard as I could with that first tool, with just like that screwdriver looking tool. And I actually I wanted to torque it in 2 stages. So like 80 and then 140 or whatever. I'll have to look that up. So I torqued it like halfway, half torque. And then this is the half torquing wrench here. So I'm just using like a star pattern to torque everything. And I didn't mention it earlier, but under the fuel line, I did not want to remove the fuel line. So you'll see me in there with a wrench and a wrench, and I actually didn't torque that. I just did it by feel. That's that fastener, the valve cover bolt under the fuel elbow that I did not feel comfortable disconnecting. So yeah. All right, here I am with the second torque wrench. I had to use a second one to get to the higher torque. And again, it just took a long time here, because every time I'd go torque it in a stage, I'd come back and retorque it, and it needed to be retorqued again. So again, I think that's due to the compression of the gaskets. And again, I was really gentle with this thing. I did not want to crack my plastic valve cover. I wanted to have success on the first pass of installing this thing. Okay, so I'm done with the torquing, putting the plugs back in, putting the coil packs back in place as I labeled them here, finger tightening the Torx fasteners. Okay, now I'm torquing them. This is just like a snug torque. That's it. That's all I put on those, removing the labels. Okay, seen here, this is the cantilever's gray and the lock is orange, and the orange lock engages with that little black tooth there. You can see the gray cantilever is broken here. I had to align it by hand and then push it into place. And then I will push the orange lock into place. So there, the orange lock is retracted. Now it's pushed into place, so that connector is locked in place. And I'm putting on all the 4 of the connectors here on the coil packs. Okay, I think those first 3 went in good. They all locked in place, no problem. That 4th one there, I'm messing with. The tooth on the tooth I'm pointing to on the coil pack is sheared off. There's no tooth, so I'll deal with that later. I'm putting that vent pipe back on there, on that end of the valve cover. Now I'm putting on the 4 ball studs or pegs, plastic pegs for the beauty cover, reattaching this brake booster vacuum line clamp. And I reused the this wire loom holder here. I was able to find a wire tie and reuse that thing. That's a close-up shot. Here are these other 2 wire ties. I had to cut off the old wire tie, and I used these other wire ties here, and I was able to reuse those. So I'm just wire tying that piece of the wiring harness there. I clip it off. Here's the close-up shot. Yeah, there it is in place. Okay. Here's the other wire tie holder. I thread the tie wrap through and put it in place and secure the cable with the wire tie, and I cut off the excess. Here's the close-up shot here. That's the one under the fuel rail. Okay, so the one coil pack had a broken off tooth. So that tooth that was seen in that previous was broken off. So I knew this coil pack connector would vibrate off over time. So I had some tiny tie wraps. I used them to fashion a little system to hold this thing in place, not with a lot of tension, just enough to hold it there, and it worked great. Okay, I also decided to change the O-ring on my oil filler cap because I was getting a little bit of leakage on the oil, leakage of oil. So here I am prying off the old O-ring. This is like an expensive O-ring. It was like $4 or $6 or something, pricey. So I'm fitting the new O-ring in place, lubing that up with a little bit of engine oil and also the threads, putting it back into place, putting on the beauty cover, and that is it. If you found this video helpful or entertaining, or you just would like to see more content like this, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for watching.